Joining me is Martin Feldstein, who is better known not only as one of the most prominent economists in the country, but as the man who heads the Business Cycle Dating Committee of the National Bureau for Economic Research. They determine whether or not we are in recession. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Marty. Now, the question is, are we going into a double dip, or did the recession never end? You, for technical reasons, haven't called the recession, but are we really growing? We got a better than expected GDP report this morning.
Yes, but still very, very weak. If you take out inventory accumulation, you had final sales growing at 1%. And 1% annual rate means 1/4% between the first quarter and the second quarter. So very close to zero. This is really a very fragile upturn, and we just don't know what's going to happen next.
And you could, therefore, say we're still in recession when it comes time to figure it all out?
Well, we could say that. And if the economy turns down again, then I think we would say we are still in recession. But that really remains to be seen. I think the more likely outlook is that we continue to grow, but at a very subpar pace.
Now, does that suggest that the Federal Reserve needs to take additional action?
I don't think there's much they can do. The interest rates are very low. They could take more action to try to lower 5-year rates, 10-year rates by intervening directly in that market. But I'm not convinced that taking mortgage rates down by 1/4% or 0.5% more is going to do very much for the economy, given the fear, the reasonable fear that house prices are going to keep coming down again.
But Marty, what about all this talk about the Fed perhaps lowering those rates on reserves to get more lending going?
You know, the rates are now very, very low. Again, part of the problem of lending, the real problem of lending, is that the small banks are concerned about their capital. So it's not the cost of keeping funds at the Federal Reserve. It is the fact that they are worried that with commercial real estate in trouble, that's going to lead to further erosion of their capital and therefore their ability to lend.
If the Fed can't do much, then, is it unfair of Wall Street to put as much on this speech as they seem to be doing? Are they relying too much on Ben Bernanke and the Fed?
Well, I think there is very little that the Fed can do. And so to that extent, too much weight is being put on that. I think where the Fed could be helpful is in working with the FDIC on this problem of capital adequacy in the small and medium-sized banks. We have 7,000 banks with less than $1 billion of assets each, and those are the banks that small business depends on, and they're not lending because they're worried about their capital.
It's not an official criteria for declaring whether or not you're in recession, but confidence seems very important. Is that something that the Fed could deliver here?
It's very hard for them to deliver confidence without being able to talk about a strategy that can actually turn the economy up.
So your prediction, before we let you go, for what's going to happen, the best thing to do, wait it out?
In terms of the economy, no. I think that the Fed and the FDIC should be working with the small banks to deal with this problem of potential capital shortages by explicitly dealing with their assets and their capital position.
Can they do that quickly enough?
They can.
All right. Martin Feldstein, thank you very much for joining us this morning.